the White House was a roundtable regarding the Antifa movement, which President Trump last month designated as a domestic terrorist organization. Joining me now to discuss this is Cully Stimson, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation and manager of their National Security Law Program. Cully, welcome to Washington Watch. Thank you so much for joining us.
Jody, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, so let's just jump right into the roundtable meeting that took place yesterday. Who was there, and what do you think came out of it all?
So it was really an extraordinary event, and I hope people watch it because you had a lot of these sort of new age bloggers and sort of new age journalists, many of whom have been criticized or attacked or actually violently attacked by Antifa. You have people like Andy Ngo, who many of you know about, who was brutalized by Antifa thugs in Portland, Oregon years ago, beaten within an inch of his life. You have others who are in Seattle and other cities where Antifa reigns. And it was interesting because one gal even said, you know, I had a really bad case of TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. And she admitted to the president to his face that she was really an anti-Trumper. Then she started embedding herself with, as a clandestine journalist with Antifa, and started writing about it and realized that they're the problem, not him. And so it was an extraordinary day. And this puts a lie, Jody, to this idea that Antifa is only an idea, that it's some amorphous, ambivalent, sort of cloud-based nothing group. They're real people, really funded by dark money groups. And the Treasury Secretary is going to get to the bottom of that. The Homeland Security Secretary is going to get to the bottom of this. So I think this is just the beginning of the unraveling of this Marxist terrorist organization.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I was actually in a meeting just yesterday with Andy Ngo, and hearing him talk was just shocking. It just underscores everything you're saying. Now, you are among others who are actually calling for the designation of Antifa to be a domestic terror organization. You started, but would you unpack that a little bit more for us? Why do you think so?
Yeah. So let's be clear. Designating them as a domestic terror organization is helpful in the sense that what it does is it focuses the government and the government's vast resources and the Joint Terrorism Task Forces that spread around the country to go after Antifa and Antifa adjacent organizations. But domestic terrorism is defined in federal statute, but it is not a standalone crime. I know I was a federal and local prosecutor. It is not a standalone crime like murder or rape or robbery. And so you can't be convicted of domestic terrorism. It's not a crime. But I know a little bit about terrorism because I was a Deputy Assistant Defense Secretary in charge of terrorist policy in the Bush administration. So I've been around al-Qaeda and other folks, including the 9/11 hijacker types that orchestrated the 9/11 attacks at Guantanamo. And so the similarities between the two are really interesting. They used end-to-end encrypted communications. They have very complex financing mechanisms that are hidden from public view. And so I think the fact that they're designating them as a domestic terrorism really focuses the government's resources on them finally. So I think that's the big takeaway.
You know, the left, I think it's fair to say, would describe Antifa's efforts as against neo-Nazis, white supremacy, and so forth. But in reality, they is it fair to say that they go far beyond that?
Well, they can call it anything they want. They can call it a toadstool or an upside-down tree for all I care. The fact is that actions speak louder than words. And when you see where Antifa thugs and apparatchiks are carrying out their mayhem and destruction and assaults, it's against law and order. It's against federal officers. It's against the enforcement of federal immigration law. It's against police. And so what I would say is they're really against civil society and capitalism. and the law and order. So, I wrote a book many years ago, Jody, called Rogue Prosecutors, How Radical Soros Lawyers Are Destroying America's Communities. And I talk about Angela Davis's book, Are Prisons Obsolete? And that comes out of the prison abolitionist movement. These Antifa thugs are against law and order. They're against the capitalist society. And so they're going to go after, attack, and foment violence on the instrumentalities of a civil society. So I don't think they're going after right-wing or right-wing extremists, and there are extremists on both sides. But on the left, they're fully financed, fully resourced. I mean, I thought the president was great when he talks about how all these yard signs and all these things that they're using to arm themselves at these protests, they're all from the same place. So this is paid for, organized anarchy. And so I think the government's right to go after them.
Yeah, so let's go there. In the meeting I was in yesterday, this was one of the major issues, and you just referenced the president's executive order last month calling for the funding sources behind Antifa to be investigated and disrupted and so forth. So what do we know about the funding behind Antifa?
Well, I don't think we know as much as we should. And the reason we don't is because they're clandestine about it. If this was a red, white, and blue personification of the First Amendment, freedom of speech and the freedom of free association, we'd all be for it. But that is exactly what it's not. This is clandestine, end-to-end encrypted, multi-layered funding that is designed to be impenetrable. And so you need Scott Bessent and the Terrorist Financing Division at Treasury. You need the resources that DOD and the agency and the FBI have at their disposal. Now that the designation has happened, that unlocks a lot of those tools to really get to the bottom of this. So whether they run it through routers throughout the world and drop it into bank accounts in the Cayman Islands or somewhere, and then they use Bitcoin or some other thing that's harder to trace, we'll get to the bottom of it. It's just going to be a lot harder. It's not like following the money in a bank robbery or identity theft. They're very sophisticated, and they do it for a reason. They don't want to be caught.
Thank you so much, Cully Stimson, Senior Legal Fellow at Heritage Foundation. A fascinating conversation, and one that we need to get to the bottom of. Thank you for joining us on Washington Watch.